Everybody ready?
Yep.
All rise to the pledge. Oh wait, that's going to be a problem. We'll fix it tomorrow.
All right.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart.
Here.
Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation the exits in the front and the rear. Any electronic device, please put it on vibrate. First item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing for food trucks. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone here to speak to food trucks? Even if you're not hungry, you can speak.
I'd repeat that question.
Anybody here to speak to the food trucks for the public hearing?
No.
I think we've debated it here. I think we came up with a good plan, so that's probably why there's nobody here. Everyone evidently is satisfied.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We'll put the proposal together for the next meeting.
Okay, great.
Okay. We have a special presentation this evening by Spectra Energy. Mr. James Lusky is going to represent them in the conversation. I'm asking the public to, one, allow them to make their presentation in full, and then after that, you can ask any questions. And if you have anything that needs further elaboration after your initial discussion, they volunteer to meet you out there in the park, no, not in the parking lot, out in the lobby. So, gentlemen and ladies, and thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. My name is Christian D. Palermo. I handle the local and government affairs for Spectra on its projects in New York State. So I just want to thank you. It's nice to be back in front of you, giving you an overview of our next, one of our next projects, Access Northeast. Just wanted to take a moment to introduce the team that's with me tonight. There's Armando Avila. He's in Government Relations and Community Affairs. Bill McGahee, Government and Community Affairs. Nancy Kist, and she's our right-of-way. She represents our right-of-way department for the Access Northeast project, and you're going to hear in a few minutes from Jim Lusky, the project director. He's going to run through the whole project. We'll walk through the route with you, give you some background, and then take questions as you would like afterwards.
Fine.
Jim?
Good evening,
Good evening.
and thank you for having us here this evening. It's a pleasure to be back. My name is Jim Lusky. I'm the Regional Director of Engineering Construction for Algonquin Gas Spectra Energy. And I'd like to talk this evening about our Access Northeast project. We do have a PowerPoint presentation prepared that I will walk through that hopefully will give a good overview of the project. We'll talk about a bit of the scope of the project, a bit about Algonquin and the purpose of the project, and also the timeline that we're on and the facilities that will be installed in the town of Southeast. At some point, I would like to use a laser pointer to point out. Does anyone have a concern with that? May I have your permission?
Not a problem, just don't point at any planes.
Okay, I'll make sure I get it going in the right direction. Thank you. To start off, Access Northeast is a project that does have, it's being developed by Spectra Energy, Algonquin Gas. We also do have partners on the project, Eversource Energy and National Grid, which are major electric suppliers in New England. The Algonquin system, if we go to the next slide, has been operating safely in the Northeast for 60 years. And it consists of a pipeline that expands from the Lambertville, New Jersey area on the Pennsylvania-New Jersey line across New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and into Massachusetts. We've got about 1,127 miles of pipeline in the Northeast, and we transport about 2.63 billion cubic feet of gas per day. We've been in service since 1953, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. We're regulated by the primary regulating agencies is the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which are the ones that review projects such as this for acceptability and approval. And then for the construction aspect and for operations aspect, we're regulated by PHMSA, which is part of the United States DOT. They regulate the interstate natural gas pipeline systems. As I said, we have been operating safely in the Northeast for 60 years. We do serve all of the utilities along our corridor, including Orange and Rockland, Central Hudson, New York State Electric and Gas, and facilities that are also in Connecticut and throughout New England. We do currently provide about 20% of the natural gas to New York State on our system. One of the challenges that is out there right now is a lack of infrastructure, basically pipeline to move the volume of gas that's needed in order for either conversion of electric generation or growth and development. The Access Northeast project is an expansion of the existing Algonquin system. The vast majority of the work is replacement of our 26-inch pipeline that was installed in 1952 with a 42-inch line. We also will be doing modifications at our existing compressor station located here in Southeast. As you may recall, we were here a couple years ago with our AIM project. That was a project that is now underway, and it serves a different market than what the Access Northeast project serves. This project is based on electric generation. In the New England states, there is a lack of capacity for electric generators to have firm supply to generate electricity in the busiest time of the year on the pipeline, which is in the winter months. So this project is designed to maximize the availability of gas to those generators. And what they're seeing in the New England states and the Northeast is real spikes in prices in the winter months because there's not the firm capacity that electric generators can procure off of the pipeline. They're basically buying gas on the spot market rather than on having their own supply. So what this project does is expand the system so that on those peak days there is a guaranteed supply both for electric generation as well as for heating of homes and operation of industry. This next slide here is fairly busy, but it does highlight all of the facilities that are part of the Access Northeast project. The project itself does extend from down in Rockland County, New York, and there's various facilities all the way up to right near the Boston area. What we're looking at here today in Southeast is, again, a take-up and relay of our 26-inch line and enhancements to the Southeast compressor station, which would consist of an additional turbine compressor that would be installed there that has about 15,900 horsepower. The Southeast compressor station was built in 1986, and I remember that one because that was actually my second project that I worked on when I started with the company. And it sits on about 122 acres. It's off the end of Tulip Road, and it's right up against the Connecticut border. Currently, we have 5 natural gas compressors there, and about 40,000 horsepower. We'll be adding another 15.9. We also have an area office that's based there, and we have personnel that are based at that location not only to operate and maintain the compressor station, but also to maintain the pipeline that runs through the area. In Southeast itself, we have about 6.5 miles of 26-inch pipeline, and at the later on in the presentation, we can put up slides and show where it does run through town to give an overview and some of the major road crossings and landmarks that we go near. And we also do have an existing valve site that is located in Valve 18, which is right off of Turk Hill Road. And we also have a meter station there. That's a point where New York State Electric and Gas takes gas off of our system. So if you do have gas in the town of Southeast, most likely it comes from there. It might come from a station in Somers if you're on the west side, but the majority of it comes from that facility. And then at the annual tax base that we currently pay to the town of Southeast is nearly $2 million. I had mentioned the take-up and relay as well as the additional horsepower. The meter station, that's the point where New York State Electric and Gas connects with us. We do have to do some minor modifications at that facility as well. And for those of you who are not familiar with that is, it's right off of 684. You can actually see it right from the highway when you drive down just before you go under the overpass for Turk Hill Road. As far as the process, we have started our pre-filing process, which means we've notified FERC of our intent to permit this project. FERC is the regulating agency that has governance, overall governance over the project, as they do of all interstate pipeline projects and electric transmission projects. But they also coordinate, as do we directly, with other federal agencies such as the Army Corps of Engineers, Fish and Wildlife, EPA, and we also coordinate with the state agencies at various levels. One of the ones we interact with not only on an ongoing basis for operations, but for the project approval is New York State DEC, and they issue water quality permits as well as the Title V permits for air emissions at the compressor station. And then we do coordinate and work with municipalities on the stormwater prevention plans as well as road opening permits and blasting permits. So it's a high-level overview. We do have another version of that over here, so if someone would like to look at it and get some more detail, and it's also available on the FERC website, which I will be providing as well. But it's a very rigorous process going through all of the agencies. And to give some idea of what that timeline looks like for the project, we started our initial outreach to various government agencies, including initial discussions with the FERC back in June and July of 2015. Shortly after that, we had informational meetings for landowners and the public in the summer and fall of 15, and then we submitted our FERC pre-filing process in November of 2015. That has been accepted, and now what the process is we're actually going through and developing the details of the project, the design, as well as going through the permitting process. Part of that process is the scoping meetings that FERC holds, and those are, excuse me, another opportunity for the public or stakeholders to ask questions and voice any concerns they have about the project to the FERC. And it's the FERC's obligation to take that information and make sure that it gets incorporated into the resource reports, which becomes part of the environmental impact statement. So every comment that gets sent to FERC, whether it's at a scoping meeting or it gets sent directly into the website, does need to be responded to, and it does need to be addressed in the resource reports. And once that is satisfied and that all the issues have been addressed and the project has not only proven that it's a necessary project, there has to be a public need for it, there also has to be the demonstration that it can be built and operated in a environmentally and safe and responsible manner. The FERC certificate issuance, we're expecting in the first quarter of 2018, so it's about a 2.5-year process from when we started, and then we would actually start construction in the second quarter of 2018. Once we do get the FERC certificate, there still are other permits that we have to obtain, particularly from the other agencies that were listed on the previous slide, including working with New York State on the permits that they have to provide. And then we are looking for the first part of the work to begin in 2018. That, for the most part, consists of, in New York anyway, it would be some clearing of trees, as well as maybe some grading and perhaps some of the work starting at the compressor station. Then the rest of the work would actually be continuing through 2018. The majority of the work in Southeast would most likely be 2019. Some of it may go into 2020, and then the overall project would be in service in 2021. I think I've already covered the next slide, so we'll go ahead to this. One of the most important factors to consider, and certainly our obligation and what really gives us our license to operate, is making sure that we're operating a safe and reliable pipeline. That we, right from the very beginning, in the selection of the materials and design and the way the facilities are constructed, that they're done in conformance with all applicable regulations, and that they're properly inspected, tested, and when it goes into service, ensuring that everything has been done to make sure that we have a safe system. And that's not only important for the folks who work on it, our employees who work on it, the teams that we work with that work on the pipeline, but also for the communities that we operate in. We take that very seriously. So in the construction phase, we do inspect all of the welds. This is made out of high-strength carbon steel. It's welded together, the pipelines are, as well as the piping that's in the compressor station. We do inspect each weld by a non-destructive means, typically an X-ray, and we do that on all of our welds. The code does allow some exceptions. We don't take those exceptions. We make sure all of our welds are inspected. And we also have a coating that's installed on the pipeline, and that's to protect any rust, inhibit any corrosion that may occur. We also have an impressed current system that prevents any corrosion from forming on the pipe. And then we also test the pipe at least 1.5 times what its operating pressure will be before it goes into service. And then once it's in service, we do have gas control that monitors the pipeline around the clock. We have data points all along the line where they can very closely observe how the pipeline is operating. The above and below ground coating maintenance I'd mentioned before that's on the pipeline, we have procedures to check that, make sure that it remains intact and that the cathodic protection is working properly. And our integrity management program is a big part of operating our pipeline safely. What that consists of is running tools through our line to ensure that not only from the outside is everything protected, but from the inside we can determine if there's been any change in pipeline conditions, if there's any side evidence of the pipe where it's got a difference in diameter, or if there's any metal loss that's occurred, which would indicate either there's been some damage to the line or there's been corrosion that occurs. If we do find that, we do evaluate that, and we do take steps to remedy it, whether it's a repair or a cutout that we go in. And that is a significant part of our program. In the Northeast and in the Southeast area, we do run those tools through our line. It's typically on a 7-year program, no greater than 7 years apart, so to ensure that the lines have been inspected. And the existing lines through here, our 26 and 30-inch line, have both been inspected at least 2 to 3, and I believe one may have been done 4 times by now. We also have leakage surveys that we perform on the pipeline. That's part of our aerial patrol process, where, for those of you who may live near the pipeline, have seen our aerial patrol that flies over the line at least once a week, typically twice a week, weather permitting. They look for any activity that's near the pipeline. They do look for any evidence of leaks. And they also are connected by radio or cell phone to folks on the ground. And they look for any activity that may be within a corridor, not even on the right-of-way, but in the corridor near the right-of-way, that may be a threat to the line. They call that in, and we immediately investigate to make sure that there's no threat. And then our one-call system, that really is a key part of protecting any underground facility. And we have always been members of the One Call system in all the states we operate. In many states, we've been the founding members of the program. And it's a very important part of our protection to ensure that there aren't any activities that go on around the pipeline that we're not aware of. Third-party damage is really the greatest threat to any buried facility. One thing that we have that's different from some other utilities is if someone is working on the right-of-way, we will have one of our people there. We'll have one of our company employees on site making sure that that work is done properly. We don't just go out and stake it out and say we'll come back when it's done. We'll have somebody there. And one of the things we do ask, landowners and folks near the right-of-way, if you see somebody working and you don't see one of our trucks there, most of the folks that live near the line recognize our vehicles, in fact, know a lot of our personnel. Make sure you give us a call and let us know. That's critical, that we need to be on site when any work is performed. And at the compressor stations, the work that gets done there, as well as valve sites, we have maintenance that's done on all of our valves that need to be operated in an emergency, make sure that they operate properly, making sure that the systems check out. We do have on the compressor stations emergency shutdown systems. Those get tested annually. And there is also maintenance on the units, what I refer to the units, the engines and the compressors, to monitor those very closely to make sure that they're operating properly. So there's sensors in the engines themselves that detect any vibration or any wear or anything that's not normal, so that we can immediately respond to that. And we also have gas detection devices in the compressor stations. So if there was a release of gas inside the station, we would know very quickly, and depending on what that release was, either the station was shut down or we would respond to see what the cause was. Before I go into question and answer, we can go through the slides that show the aerial drawings of the pipeline as it goes through town here. It's a little hard for me to see this far back here, so I'll have to wing it to a little bit of a degree.
I got a mic that will follow you that way. Do you want to do that?
Sure, that would be great.
That goes pretty far.
Tony, how about we turn this around?
Okay, thank you so much. I apologize having to lean over here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Where we start is a little bit off of, to the east of Stoneleigh Avenue is where the line is between Carmel and Southeast. Thank you. And from that point, we're pretty much running parallel to the Metro-North Railroad for pretty close to a mile. And we're heading up towards the area of the town dump. Before we get to that area, we do cross our the railroad, and we'll get to that slide next. It's a little farther up. There we go. No. Is that our, yeah, that's our crossing right there. So the dump area is up here, and we cross the Metro-North Railroad, and then we go down and cross the east branch of the Croton River. And this is Route 202, right in here. And once we cross Route 202, we pretty much go right up through the middle of Reed Farm condominiums. And then we go beyond that to the next development. And I'll give you a little overview of what we're looking at here. The darker line is the approximate location of the existing pipeline, which will be the location of the 42-inch, the 30 inches there as well. The areas that we're looking at in white here are the corridor that we did our survey work on. And that survey work consisted of going in and not only doing a civil survey of what's on the ground to locate any facilities, but also to do environmental survey and cultural resource survey to understand what's in there that we have to be cognizant of as we do our work. The yellow line that's shown here is the temporary workspace. That would be space that we would need to use in addition to our 75-foot existing easement. In some places there is no temporary workspace. We're tied up against something, and we do try to keep that to a minimum. But that's what's shown in the yellow lines, and then the red lines are the property lines of existing property of the landowners. So if we can continue on, the next area that we're going to hit, if you can go a little bit to the left, there we go. We're going to come out to, this is Route 55 here, and then we cross up through another development. I apologize, I forget the name of that one, right in there on the way to Turk Hill Road. And we cross Turk Hill Road just before 84. And that's where we have our valve site, and that's where the New York State Electric and Gas facility is at. We cross 684 and then go up to the next road crossing we have is Star Ridge Road. And yeah, is that it? There, yeah, Star Ridge Road. And then we go over to Peach Lake Road and continue on, and it's fairly open area. So there's some residential area that we go through here. And then we go to Nichols Road is the next road crossing, and then Dingle Ridge, and then that's the last road before we get to our compressor station.
You did mention 55, I think you're in the error.
I think it's County Route 55.
It's county.
Oh, County Route 55, is that what-
County,
okay.
yes.
fine,
It's Dean's
okay.
Corner.
Dean, yes.
Right.
So that will take us up to the compressor station.
I was thinking 55 too.
Yeah, that's a little bit too far. That's over in Danbury now. So that just gives a rough overview of where the line runs. Thank you very much for letting me use that. So that, okay.
The supervisor asked, we're going to send you an electronic version
Please,
of the PowerPoint so you can put it on your website.
and we'll put it on our website, thank you.
And that's the conclusion of the presentation, but I'm certainly happy to answer questions, or if there's anything you'd like me to expand on more from the presentation, I'm certainly happy to do that.
Well, I have some members of the public, so we'll let them ask their questions first. Anyone that would like to make some comment? If you could come up to the mic, state your name for the record.
Thank you.
If you're from a town other than the Southeast, just represent that as well, please. You can lower that too, ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening, I'm Susanna Glidden, living 3 miles from the compressor station at Peach Lake, where we have 500 other homes, even closer than I live, to the compressor station.
You have
All
to
right.
speak up, ma'am. I'm sorry, she was,
What?
oh, the
Oh, you want
light.
the lights, Barry? It's the third one.
I didn't hear what he said.
We had to up the lights for you,
Oh, okay.
so, for the camera.
All right. Good evening. Good evening. Should I start again? What do you think?
Maybe you continue to talk. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought she meant you were talking too loud. but when
I
she
did
was putting her
too.
hand up, but she
Yeah.
meant the light.
Lights.
Oh, we got that. Okay.
Do you want me to start again?
No.
All
That's fine.
right.
We got it.
So,
They just couldn't hear you, but we've got your written text, and that'll be on the website as well.
very good. And I'm going to follow it up next week with hyperlinks that you can just click on to reference science backing up everything that I'm going to say tonight, plus more that you don't have time to have me say, but that's on the handout.
Okay?
Our area is an EPA-ranked non-attainment zone in ozone and particulate matter. We live near Route 684 and I-84, and add to this the compressor station emissions constituents, each one measured by huge amounts of annual tons that include, amongst all of them just some, sulfur dioxide, with Stony Point and Southeast compressors emitting the largest amounts of sulfur dioxide on the whole Algonquin line, benzene, formaldehyde, part of VOCs, and as you may know, they are cancer causers, methane, ethane, butane, propane, nitrogen oxide, and many others that are hard for me to pronounce, but that are on the handout. Ground level ozone is created from the turbine combustion creating nitrogen oxide and volatile organic compounds that combine with heat and sunlight, creating ground-level ozone that impacts the respiratory system, lung function, and cardiovascular systems. A high risk for the elderly, very young, and a potential killer for people with COPD and heart problems. Acute health impacts experienced by individuals living and working near compressor stations include a lot of things. Just some are eyes, nose, throat, and lungs irritation, nausea, vomiting, skin rashes, fatigue, weakness, confusion, depression, anxiety, irregular heartbeat, personality changes, damage to liver and kidneys, damage to lungs, damage to cardiovascular, to developing fetus, reproductive damage, mutagenic impacts, damage in nervous system, brain impacts, leukemia, changes in blood cells, impacts to blood clotting ability, etc., etc., sores and ulcers in mouth, thyroid problems. Neither health impacts nor regional cumulative impacts were examined in the inadequate FERC review to see how high we are above safe limits of all these constituents. Also, industry is allowed to use air credits from other parts of the nation to lower their actual levels to win project approval, but we're left breathing the catastrophically ruined air. Blowdowns emit much greater emissions than normal operating emissions. In 2012, there were 12 single-unit blowdowns, 1 full station blowdown. In 2013, 12-unit, 1 full station, 1 pig trap blowdowns. 2014, 12-unit, 1 full station, 3 pig trap blowdowns. And I'll explain pigging when I do the follow-up next week. So the charts indicate from DEC, to which Spectra is required to report, that all of these blowdowns were scheduled. We must have notification of every one of them, especially so those of us with medical conditions can either evacuate the area if weather conditions are unfavorable or stay indoors with the filtering machines running and windows shut. I failed to mention that the emissions can travel 2 to 6 miles, and weather plays a major factor in determining their impact. If the skies are overcast and wind is moving slowly from the direction of the compressor station, that's the most dangerous. If it's clear, very windy, they have a chance to rise and dissipate. But you can appreciate if it's overcast and it's crawling in our direction, that's when it's lethally dangerous. And I, with COPD, I have to evacuate, but I have to know when they're coming. So, following the 2014 and 2015 single-unit winter blowdowns, I really nearly died. I had such a major exacerbation. The second time I was hospitalized for a week, very close call, and in rehab for 2 weeks. So my question tonight, please, to Spectra, will they notify us, you in Southeast, us in North Salem, will they please notify us of every blowdown so that we can take precautions? Thank you.
How much notice would you be looking for, ma'am?
What?
You looking for like a day's notice? Is that what you're interested in?
That would be great. That would be important. 1 day is sufficient. And to the EMS in Southeast, the EMS in North Salem, then they notify all of us right away. But as host town, we call on you to help us in North Salem because we've been refused. Our supervisor asked Spectra for notification, and they refused us, saying that they don't have facilities in our town, but we get the emissions. And please, as host town, if you could press this issue home and successfully for us, we'd be indebted to you.
Well, I won't speak for the town clerk, but we do have a system here in town where if we're notified of something, we can forward it to someone else with, different districts that we have. So I'll work with the town clerk or web people and ask Spectra if they will consider doing it.
But I think you were making the point, Susanna, if I'm correct, that if you have a point person, contact person, is it EMS, if someone's notified in North Salem, they'll distribute it from there, just one contact, right? So
Yes.
that makes it very
Well,
easy.
and if someone's notified, if we have an email, if you provide us a link of email, people that you want notified,
Right.
and we get notified, we just push a button, everyone knows.
Wonderful, that would be great,
I'm
but,
not going to say they're going to do it, but I'm going to ask them if they would.
what?
I said I can't guarantee they'll do it, but we will ask them if they will.
Yeah.
Well, they have to do it for our sake, and the problem is,
Well, when they
Supervisor
do-
Hay,
okay.
that Spectra is only notifying once a year with the full station blowdown, and the issue is being notified for every one of the monthly blowdowns, be they single unit or 2 units, other than the full station. That's what we need notification of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, you have made your concerns to the EPA, federal authorities, other federal authorities, and state authorities?
We have,
Okay.
and Amy Rosemarin is going to speak to that about DEC, but it's a good idea to redo it with EPA. Thank
Okay,
you.
but that's, you're telling us, again, we have like almost no say in the matter, okay? These are the federal authorities will approve the plan, so if you make them aware of all these concerns, they will be the ones to address it during their public hearings and all.
But as host town, you have a lot of clout asking the DEC to put in their permit, to modify their permit for the station, notification of every blowdown every time. Please,
We will try.
thank
I'm
you.
not going to put them on the spot tonight, but I'll talk to them offline tomorrow.
What?
I will, again, I'm not going to put them on the spot tonight, but I will talk with them because everything we've asked them to do, I believe, they've done. They gave us a tour of the plants, et cetera. They volunteered to be here this evening, and I think everything is quite reasonable that's been done thus far.
It'd be wonderful, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Next comment?
Hi, I'm Amy Rosemarin. I'm from North Salem. I'm a former councilwoman there. And I actually I've got 2 questions for Spectra. Given all the toxins in the gas and the health impacts, why do you vent instead of collecting and using the released gas?
Why don't you answer both questions and then we'll come.
Okay. May I ask the second question as well? then?
Yep, and then the second question is, how many times in the past 3 years, approximately, have you actually notified Southeast of blowdowns?
Okay, gentlemen, do you have the answers to those questions?
Thank you for those comments. Talk a little bit about the gas release or blowdowns. We do vent from our southeast compressor station for various reasons. The primary reason that we do that is to check our emergency shutdown system annually, and that does require venting down the entire station. As part of our emissions reduction program, we do have a project that's being installed this year that is going to change the configuration of the valves and how we isolate that station. So during that blowdown, we're not actually going to be releasing any gas. We can do that internally without an actual venting. So we will be eliminating that annual test that we do in terms of having that as part of a gas release. And the other releases that we do have a release when a unit is taken off a line. Those are very small in magnitude. If we compare it to what an average house uses in the Northeast for gas consumption in a year, is about 80 MCF of gas. That's the typical volume. The release on the small units that do need to require that release when they shut down is somewhere in the range of about 8 to 10 MCF. So it's really about 10 times that equivalates to one household use. So it's a very small volume of gas. And what we do is the notification for that emergency shutdown that we have where it is a larger volume of gas, we do notify the towns for that. We notify Southeast, we notify the police, fire, the town clerk, as you had mentioned, do get notification. And with the heightened awareness this year, the past couple years on the release, I know Christian has personally made some follow-up contacts to make sure everyone is aware when that's going to occur. We also notify in an immediate area of the compressor station the residents and businesses that are right there. Not that there is a safety concern with the venting that we do. It is a matter of just an awareness that if they do smell gas, and what they smell is not the gas itself, but the mercaptan that's added to the gas, which is a safety feature that gives it the rotten egg smell. Gas itself is lighter than air, so when it's dissipated into the atmosphere, it very quickly rises and keeps rising. Even we do take into account what weather conditions are when we make those notifications, but our primary focus is those right in the immediate area that may smell that mercaptan. That's not to say that the mercaptan could drift farther depending on weather conditions, and if there are odor complaints that come in for that, if we get them, we respond to them. The LDCs respond. We also notify the local distribution companies when we have that blowdown. And also the fire department would have to respond if they got a call. One of the concerns that we have on a large-scale notification for every blowdown is if there was the chances of smelling it beyond the station are farther you get out, more remote. And we wouldn't want to confuse the fact that maybe there was a gas leak there. Someone got a notice, said, well, that's probably what it is, and ignore a gas leak. So we do want to be cautious in how far we do get that notice out there, because we wouldn't want to mask what could be a real issue. The folks that are right around near us, kind of have a sense that, all right, when we say we're going to blow down, this is usually what it takes. It's over. They would have to use judgment if they think that there really is a gas leak at the same time we were blowing down.
Okay,
Yes,
I
sir.
think there's a bit of a difference. I think what they're asking, well, first of all, do you have any idea how many notifications they asked of Southeast in particular? I didn't hear that.
Well, there would have been at least the one for last year. I don't know offhand how many there would have been, but it would have been at least the one for that emergency shutdown system.
It was the one in October.
October. I remember I spoke to Christian about this.
Okay.
So,
And
I
I guess they're interested more in the smaller ones. Now, with the smaller ones, do you notify anyone as well?
We typically do not, because they are very small. It's a minor release. It really would be, there really is not a need for notification on that. We do, however, take that and we do log that. We calculate what that release is, that 8 to 10 MCF per release. And we do log that in our database, and that gets reported in aggregate at the end of the year to the DEC, New York DEC. So they do have a running total of what we have for all of our emissions. That includes, as was mentioned, for the pigging launchers and receivers, for those unit blowdowns, as well as for the ESD tests. And if we had something that was an unintended release, we also log that in there. Now, as part of our Title V permit for the AIM project, I'd mentioned that we work with DEC. DEC is the one that has responsibility for the emissions at the station, for the testing and monitoring that we do of our units when they're running. Basically, the exhaust emissions on it get tested annually, and also for the emissions that we have for any gas release. And as part of the discussion we had with them, and based on the feedback that we had gotten through the AIM project about the concern about notification and the volume of gas, we have put in our new Title V permit that will go into effect when we have the AIM project in service, that we will have a threshold of notification to the DEC of a certain volume of gas being released. So there is another level of notification that will then occur to the DEC.
Okay, now, prior to a blowdown that you mentioned earlier, they vary, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know prior to that blowdown how much release there's going to be?
For the ESD,
For the smaller ones?
the smaller ones, well, we have a calculation of what that approximately would be, but it all depends on when the unit is coming offline. We don't necessarily know when that unit's going to come on and off.
Is there a level for notification? Like, just use hypothetically, a small blowdown, we'll say is a 1. And the one a year, one is maybe a 10, not that's released, but just to give you an idea of what the number would be.
It'd be I believe it's 1,000 MCF is what we'd make
That's a big number.
notification
Let's use a
on.
little number. No, let's go
No,
1 to
but
10, just for
that's what's-
speaking. What I'm trying to determine, prior to a release of gas, if it's going to be over a certain level, so is 1,000 the level that you would notify?
Yes, that would be the one that's in the new Title
Anything under that, you would not
V.
notify?
Pardon me?
Anything under that, you would not notify?
We would monitor, we track that, and we report at the end of the year as we're required to.
So if the public seems to want to know when the blowdowns to occur, and I don't really see a big deal with it, and hopefully it's not a big deal, you would know, if you were to notify the town, would you notify the town with a small one?
Not in the small ones, we don't know.
Only the once-a-year blowdown UV?
That is the one we've been doing, or if there's some other work that's going on, like this year, we will have work at the station as part of the AIM project. We will have some releases then. We will notify you when we do those releases.
So basically, when you notify our town,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can have a system here, we'll set it up to whoever gets it, whether it's, the town clerk gets it, our fire department gets it, or whoever within the town. Kenny Clare's our fire coordinator. If he gets that notice, then we in turn can just send out an email to the people explaining that once-a-year blowdown of 1,000 or more, or thereabouts, will be released.
Yes, if you choose to do
I think what they're asking, they
that,
would like to
yes.
see, is there a way with the small ones? If you gave us a notice, we could just say it's under X number, but it'll occur on this day. So if this person has some kind of a, medical emergency, which I've heard, whether, I'm not a doctor,
Well-
so I don't know how it works.
Well,
You have to
again, we're
notify.
not making the notification for anyone to take any special precautions or to do anything different. It's really just a notification that you may hear a noise and you may experience a smell.
Okay.
And that's the reason for it. And again, I caution on a very broad notification,
Right
because
now, here are two
we don't
people.
want to mask the fact that there's gas in the community, and that if there was a leak, we wouldn't want somebody to think, particularly if they're farther away from the station and not familiar with it, that it's not a leak, but it's just a station that I had to release.
Based on my experience with what people have asked, I have 2 people now, that list may be 10. Those people know what we'd be notifying about. The general public would not get this message.
So that would be a very pointed email to
It would
certain
be on
individuals.
request.
That would be your
They would
prerogative.
notify us, 2 people here have requested something. You notify us, once we're notified, we would notify them. That's
That
all
would
it is.
certainly be your prerogative to do that.
Can I clarify something on the MCF? What did you say the normal release, when you do the monthly or,
Yearly.
The annual ESD test?
no,
When an engine vents after it shuts down, yeah, it's about, I believe, 8 to 10 MCF.
okay. And you said at 1,000, that's when you notify, that's when.
Yes, 1,000 would be notification, yeah.
Just to clarify,
I'm sorry, Christian.
just to clarify, the notification that was agreed upon under the AIM project was to notification really to DEC of the specific event. Currently, what has existed all these years since we've been here is we take note of every release, and then the accumulated numbers are put into a report to DEC on an annual basis.
Right. And
Now, and I just want to stress that this was input from hearings that DEC had for the AIM project. People said, and DEC came to us and said, well, we would like to know if it's at this level. And so we want you now to tell us when it's at that level. Not notification to the community. That's what the DEC is. We're having the discussion on notification to the community with you now, because you're requesting it. As you requested last year, we gave you notification on the annual. You requested and we did that.
Okay, so if, that's what, so right now, it's once a year, okay?
Of notification to
So
the
when
town.
you notify us in the future, we will get these 2 people's email
Right.
address, and when we're notified, how much in advance are we going to be known? A week, 2
Well,
weeks?
last time we
day?
did it, I mean, yeah, we gave much more than a day. I think it was, I gave you at least a month, I think, that it was.
well, yeah, but then we had to pin it down towards the end.
Right.
So.
Yes, you get more than a day, you get a day.
Okay, so we could just notify them of the release at the same time we're notified. That's a simple thing to do.
I'm just a little leery about taking that responsibility on, because if town hall's closed, we're not here,
Well,
whatever, you know.
you do it
And
on
then they're gonna
weekends?
come and complain to us
Holidays?
that we
We
didn't
do
get
the
the
annual one.
Look,
If it's not necessary, I mean,
We try to do the annual one.
I understand you wanna try to be but something may go wrong, you know.
If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. I mean, look at least we make the attempt
But I
to
don't
do
want to
it.
have people
Well,
from.
I'm gonna tell them now, we're
claim-
just-
And I mean, I think with Councilwoman Eckhart, we knew, at least, I know we had pinning the specific day.
Right.
But there was advance warning to know, okay, it's coming.
Right. Oh,
So-
yes,
And we
yes.
knew the month, and we, you know, so
Yes,
if.
because
it's
I've
Saturday-
gotten requests
If,
to
you
know.
know, if we missed a day, we'll tell you the week. You know, they'll know that that's gonna, you know, that it could happen. But most of the time, what happens is we do, if we pull back and decide not to do it for some reason, we're just gonna come back and tell you the next time.
Yeah, we'll update you.
We're either gonna do it on that day. Worst case scenario, I guess, in the situation is somebody decides to stay in and we didn't do it and we come back. It's not like we're not gonna come back and tell you, oh, we're doing it next Saturday.
Okay, I just don't think it's a lot to ask to provide
Right.
the few people that want to know that information to make it aware to them. Or I could just contact the supervisor in North Salem and ask them to do it, but I have no problem pushing a button and saying, here's a release on such and such a
But
day.
do you check your emails often and?
Yes, we're online all day.
And if they're not, we sent it. What can we do? We'll do our best.
So the bottom line is you notify as to the annual, you don't notify as to the unit because it's a low amount of emission in accordance with
Correct.
what you're saying. The DEC approves that, and you still notify as far as the annual, the immediate local area that's affected. Because I used to live in that immediate local area near the compressor station. And indeed, I'd get something in my mailbox. Now I'm sure they do emails or something. I would get it in my mailbox, and you would smell for, I don't really recall, it wasn't a very long time, the rotten egg smell, which indicated that gas had been released. And then it would go away. But I do remember it was up Nye Farm, and each mailbox would have a little notification. So, and that, this is what the DEC approved. This is what Algonquin Spectra said that they would do, and you intend to do it. And if anyone, you know, then at that point, Tony, I don't know, if they give a notification, whether you also want to put it on the website,
We can do it.
you know, I mean, I think,
Or
you know.
New York Alert.
But what you're saying is you really don't know when certain units may or may not get offline, but in any event, it's a low emission. I don't know as far as cumulative effects, you know, accordance with Ms. Glidden's paperwork here. I mean, I don't know, you know, that much science about it, but I assume that you're saying it rises, so does it rise quickly?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Yeah,
so
it's
for the
lighter
most
than
part,
air.
Absent, you know, weather conditions that should really militate against you doing the test, if all of a sudden you think it's going to be a bad weather condition, and hopefully that's when you say it might not be the same day, I can give you a week, then that's basically what you're saying. Has that been the practice in the past? I left Ives Farm in 1998. So I was there from 85, so I was there the first round when they came in to build the station in 86. So I was at those meetings as a resident of Ives Farm. And so I was there for that entire period of time. So, you know, I do remember, you know, the notifications, I do. And they would come at the beginning when you first built, they were a little bit, we would get more notifications, I remember that. But then after a while, it just was literally just annually. So,
And I
okay.
would say, just to clarify on the cumulative, because we're talking about small incidents, and Jim has gone into that a little bit. Cumulative, it's not that it's not being tracked, it's being tracked and reported, you know, to DEC, which regulates us. You know, everything we do is reported, and then we are still within the Title V permit.
And the results of the reporting can be accessed by,
DEC, go
but
to DEC.
accessed at the DEC by us or
Yes,
any
public
of,
document.
anyone, right, okay, very good.
Yeah.
To the mic, and then you can come to, well, why don't you come up and follow her, so you,
I just,
wait till you get there. That's it.
I just want to clarify something. You said that they're small, other than the...
Speak into the mic, because
Oh, I'm sorry. I wanted to
Can you go over it?
clarify. You had said that each of the, aside from the annual one, that they're all very small. Well, I have the vented emissions from the DEC for 2014, and I sent you guys 2012, 2013, 2014. And there are, you know, November of that year, there were 5. So if the main one was 627 million cubic feet, 627 million cubic feet, and then the next one was 500 million cubic feet. And then there's the month before was 225 million cubic feet, and there's 443 and so I'm not sure how you're saying that, oh, we only vent 8 cubic feet, or, because these are all hundreds of cubic feet, hundreds of millions of cubic feet, and close to the maintenance, the size of the maintenance blowdown. So,
Yeah, a question on that is the units on that is MCF, 600 MCF?
yeah, it's MCF.
MCF, that's 1,000 cubic feet.
Oh, 1,000, okay.
Yeah.
1,000, okay.
It's not million. So
That's a bunch.
that's
Not a bunch,
the
the
difference.
millions is a bunch,
So
not the thousand.
scale-wise, each of these other months, many of these other months are close in size to your annual one and not some little piddly one.
The little ones that add up, and there may have been maintenance work that was done too. I didn't say that was all of the releases. There is maintenance work that gets done where we do have to vent gas from the station as well, and we do notify on those. The only one that we have that's a set schedule or an annual event is the ESD. We have those small releases that are part of the units coming offline. We also have the pig launcher receiver, which is even a smaller quantity, but we may have a need to do maintenance at the facility, and that would require a release as well. So there are other times when we do have to release gas that would add up to larger volumes.
On the chart I have, which I was sent, the maintenance one was the 627 number, and the yearly was 4,106. So, I mean, I understand what you're saying behind it. You don't want people to get confused and miss a gas leak in their house, which is obviously would be extremely important. But I think for people with health issues or small children, even if it's completely safe and it gives them peace of mind to stay inside or even go somewhere for the day, I think it would be really helpful for our community, because it is our job, our primary job, I think, is to help keep our residents safe and our neighbors safe. If you can notify it, I think, just the town clerk, and we handle it from there. I do think it would be really helpful.
We will continue to do that, notify as we have been doing to the town, and if whatever notifications you want to make from there
Right.
is certainly fine.
Okay, I'm going to ask to be put on the list, and I in turn will contact Ms. Glidden because I have her email address here,
Thank you.
and I'll take the responsibility to make sure you get to it.
Thank you so much.
Best I can do. So this way, it's not the town clerk, I'll take full responsibility, but you better send me an email.
We will let you know.
You just said that you'll continue to do it the way that you have been. So that's not saying that you will notify them when there's other blowdowns other than...
We have been notifying if there's a significant blowdown. We have not been notifying for the units when they go offline for those very small releases, and we're not intending to do that, but for any blowdown where there is a potential someone's going to smell it be impacted, that's when we will notify the town.
And when does the smell impact come in with these numbers that I'm hearing this evening? When does that smell impact come in?
Come again?
Another how many?
Depends how close you are.
Well, you're using these numbers, which,
Essentially, if we're taking the station down and releasing the gas that's in the station, that would be a point where we would make notification. If we were doing a very small piece of pipe to do some maintenance on a valve or something, that the odor is never going to even leave the property for that. It's just such a small release. So we would have to record that, but we would not make a notification on it. We would want to make the notification, and we do make the notifications when we feel there may be someone that is going to notice that we have vented gas, and so that they're not alarmed by it, that they're aware of it.
have you had any more than one notification per year? Have you had an event where you thought it was going to be over a certain level and you notified as well?
Oh,
Or is it
certainly,
only- So
yeah.
there's more than once a year?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The once a year is just that test, which we're doing away with that method of doing the test, so we'll be eliminating that. But there are other reasons where we would be venting gas, and we notify the town for that.
Okay, so
That's
if you
been our
notify
practice.
us
So we're
before-
sticking with that practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm John Lord, a resident of Town Southeast. Said $2 million in taxes a year. Is that to the Town Southeast?
Isn't that with,
1.97, they said, yes.
but
That's for the
it-
school.
but that's school as well, isn't it, Lori? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Local taxes.
And county.
Okay, now, the gas is coming from where? Where is the origin point?
You have to
of
speak
the
into the
pipe-
mic so the public.
Where's the origin point of the pipeline? Where are you getting the gas from? You have two questions. That is the origin, and also, is the gas meant only for domestic use? Is there an intention for export?
Algonquin Spectra is part of the North American Interstate Pipeline System, so we're connected to all major gas basins in North America. So the primary areas come up from the Gulf states. We also get it from the mid-continent as well as in the east. So we, in one way or another, all of the pipelines are connected so that we do have access, or I should say our customers have access to supply basins throughout North America. We don't actually own the gas that's in the pipeline. We transport it for the customers, which may be a producer or it may be an end user that actually owns that space in the pipeline. And the Access Northeast project, as in the AIM project, is all for domestic use. There is no, in North America, there is no export beyond North America. Part of the Atlantic Bridge project does have customers that are in Canada that will be serving as part of that project, but we don't have, there is not LNG export, if that's the question. That's not what this project is designed for.
And one question I have, is there any other pipelines along the corridor? Are you the only, is this the only corridor and pipeline within the Northeast?
No, there are other pipelines that come into the Northeast. The Algonquin line, as I showed on the drawing before, comes from the Pennsylvania-New Jersey line. There's also the Tennessee pipeline that comes across New York into New England, both south down in the White Plains area and also up to the north into Massachusetts. There's also the Iroquois system that comes down across New York State that actually imports gas from Canada and brings it in. There is the Transco system that comes up through New Jersey. There's quite a few, and then we also have the Maritimes and Northeast system that comes from Canada that brings gas in from offshore Canada onshore into the United States. And where the Algonquin system is connected to the Texas Eastern system in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, and that brings the gas. When I talked about the connections to the North American basins, the Texas Eastern system is connected to those.
Do you have any idea what the largest size pipe of any of those pipelines? I mean, you're talking 42 inch, is there?
Yeah, I believe it's 48 inch, but I'm not positive on that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public? Okay, someone that hasn't spoken first. And ma'am, would you come up behind him in the meantime so we can save some time if you would?
Good evening. I'm Bradley Schwartz, a resident of the town of Southeast. Thank you for...
Okay, Brad, again, if you could speak in the mic and they'll hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
You have Verizon? No.
I have a whole list of questions and comments, and I'll just quickly go through them. I have a question about the air survey, the size of the compressors, what pipelines are going to be replaced, the emergency shutdown test, tax assessments, blowdowns, emission monitoring, record of the blowdowns, the AIM versus the Access Northeast project, and safety training. So I will just go through these in order. You mentioned,
Again,
excuse me?
time-wise, I mean, that's a lot of questions. I mean,
Some of them are comments. They won't take that long.
Okay. If something takes anything of any length, I'm going to ask.
I won't do that.
No. Ask your question,
Right.
and we'll
Then they
ask you
can-
to respond in writing
Okay,
to us
that's
as
fine.
well.
I think you mentioned that there's a frequent aerial survey of the pipeline. I've lived about a half mile south of the pipeline for 30 years. I've never seen an aircraft that looked like it was surveying a pipeline?
I'm surprised that it flies it usually twice a week, and it flies fairly low over the pipeline.
This is a helicopter, I assume?
No, it's not, it's a fixed-wing aircraft.
Really? Well, I'll have to ask my neighbors if they've ever seen this. I'm not, it's just a surprise to me.
Control underneath the...
Okay, well, 30 years, I've never seen such a thing, but. Now, the total horsepower of these compressors is close to 60,000. Is that correct, what you're proposing?
We're adding another unit here with 15,000.
So that's, if I'm doing this correctly, that's like close to 20 diesel-electric locomotives running.
I don't know what a diesel is.
Something like 3,000 horsepower.
Gentlemen, if you, I have to, you know what, I'm going to get the other mic.
What, the other mic?
Well, you speak to one and let the answers come.
Oh, okay. But anyway, it's just, my point is that that's a lot of machinery running. What type of air quality monitoring is being done on a regular basis?
I can answer that. That's part of our Title V permit, is that we have the emissions testing on the units, and that's done on an annual basis by, and often witnessed by DEC.
Try not to get too close to one, just in case.
Oh,
Just in
right.
case.
Feedback.
Just in case.
So that's an annual monitoring. You don't do routinely monitor the emissions yourselves.
Right, we report how the units are running, what their conditions are, and then under the test, they can go back and say that these are the conditions that they ran through during the year, matched up with what we ran during the test.
Now, you said there's an annual emergency shutdown test.
Correct.
Now, and I guess that's only annually because you have to do this
Again,
large
Brad,
blowdown?
talk in the mic so we can all hear, please.
And I assume that's annual just because you have to do this large blowdown to conduct that test?
It's annual, that's what's required by the regulations, that we do this annual test on the system.
But are there, I mean, I'm really surprised by that because the amount of gas going through this compressor station is tremendous. And to me, doing an annual test is just
Well, that's just
beyond
one
belief.
of the many tests.
So
we
that's
do.
my question. I'm assuming that you do other safety tests more regularly.
Oh, yes, yes. There's equipment that gets monitored and tested on a more frequent basis, and there's a program in place that if there is anything that is not operating right, is repaired properly.
So the annual test is a full-up.
We look at, we check all of our gas detection equipment, we check our valves, we check our cathodic protection system, we check our backup electric power generating facilities. We have regulators that we check, our meters. There's a whole host of checks that get done on a regular basis. The ESD is just one of many tests.
That's
that
like
get
a
done at the
full-up
station.
shutdown test. Okay.
I just want to clarify for everybody that the system's monitored 365, 7 days a week, 24/7.
Right.
It's not that it's not monitored. I mean, some people in this room have been on a tour of the station, and they've seen, it is completely monitored by computers and by humans. So it's not left alone.
Right, no, I know that, okay. Now, you said on the record of these blowdowns that records are sent to the DEC. If I heard you correctly, you said that's done in aggregate?
Well, at the end of the year, the total is sent to the DEC.
So you don't send them a record of each incident?
Not on the, not with our new Title V. If there was an event that was over the 1,000 MCF, we would notify them of that. On the emission side, if there is some exception, when you asked before about the testing, if we see something that's not running the way it should and there was an excursion from what the emissions were, we report those to the DEC at that point. We're required to do that.
Okay, because I'm just curious as how people correlate their health problems with blowdowns if the blowdowns aren't reported individually. That's why I asked that question. What is the difference between, I came here tonight thinking I was going to hear about the AIM project, and then I'm surprised that this is Access Northeast. How do those relate?
Well, they don't really relate. They're both projects, other than being on the Algonquin system, an expansion of the Algonquin system. They are both consisting of taking up the 26-inch line and replacing it with the 42. However, it's a different customer base. The AIM project serves local distribution companies primarily, which are the distribution companies that bring it out to homes and businesses. They're the end users on that. They're the ones that have the demand for that project. The Access Northeast project serves electric generators in terms of from the electric distribution companies. If I could just take a minute to explain a little bit on the difference of that. The issue in New England with the ISO New England is that there's power plants. The Algonquin system is connected to about 60% of power generation in New England. Of that, those power generators do not own firm capacity on the pipeline. So when I mentioned before we don't own the gas, the customers own it. They don't actually own any of that space to transport gas. That's what they basically buy from us. So the Access Northeast project expands the line so they can actually own the space that they need to serve their facility. So in the winter months, they're not competing with an LDC or a large manufacturing plant or something else for that volume of gas and raising the price up the way it does in the winter. They'll have their own supply. And that's really where the big difference is, where the AIM project serves the local distribution company, where they're seeing a growth and they're seeing a conversion to gas, and they're seeing a need on their system. The part of the FERC process, when I talked about it, is the things that we have to demonstrate in order for a project to be approved is, one, that there's a public need. So we don't build these projects on spec. It is based on a demand from a customer who essentially pays us a rate to build the project. We build it, and they pay us back that rate for the service we provide to them. So that's a firm commitment, and they have to go before then their various state PUCs, the Public Utility Commissions, or whatever they're called in a different state, to get approval that they can have their ratepayers essentially pay for this additional service. So by the time it goes through the FERC process, there is demonstrated there's a need for the gas and that the project should be built.
But, okay, I understand that, but both projects use the same right-of-way and the same compressor station, so the gas is just indistinguishable where it goes, I assume. You don't have a separate pipe for one?
No, we don't, no. We're replacing our 26, and we're putting in 42.
So this is just another upgrade, but a different customer base?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Last question is there any special safety training that you provide to local fire departments in case of an accident, which fortunately has never happened that I'm aware of?
Yes, that's another very good question.
What?
I'm knocking on wood, did you say that?
I figured.
Yes, we do have a liaison program where we invite fire companies, police, first responders to come in, and we do a safety training on responding to an emergency on a natural gas facility. We also open it up to the fire companies. If they would like us to come in at one of their meetings and do a special training for them, that we're more than happy to do that. And very typically, that's an evening meeting when they have their whole company in, and we'll go and do a presentation for that as well. And that's in addition to the annual or the semi-annual meeting that we invite them to.
So has the Brewster Fire Department and the Danbury Fire Department had this training at your facility in Southeast?
We typically go to the firehouses to do it. I haven't been in operations for a few years. I don't know if they've requested it recently, but I know historically there's been requests for it. But we invite them to the training itself, so they do come to the training that we have.
I would just say to the town board that I think that the fire department should be compelled to do this, not.
Oh, the response is very good from the fire department.
I understand what you're saying, but I think the fire department really should be, we should make sure that they are doing this and not saying, oh, we did it 2 years ago, there's no need for that, because this is a big deal here, the amount of gas going through our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your questions.
I must say that I'm very upset and disappointed by what I hear from Spectra. citing 8 to 10,000 cubic feet as a single unit release in one of the months as being the norm for the unit releases. I would appreciate it. I believe, Lynn, you were sent the charts this afternoon, and I would appreciate it if you would all take a look at the amounts that go into those unit emissions. And please understand that with emphysema and bronchitis, as I have, that I'm able to manage very well, I was impacted on an overcast day with the winds coming from the compressor station, confirmed. I go on AccuWeather.com, click on Extended, and I can see the wind direction and the velocity of the day and of the night. And I asked Spectra after my 2014 January exacerbation that took me weeks to recover from, whether there had been a blowdown. And Mary Lee Hanley, the spokeswoman, before this became a contentious issue, answered, yes, there had been. And it coincided with the day before I experienced this terrible exacerbation. These unit blowdowns are not to be taken lightly, please, or dismissed by Spectra. We need monthly notification of each one of them. The second thing that upset me listening to them talk about all their different gas sources, they're failing to mention the glut of Pennsylvania fracked gas, which is high in radon. And that is what is going to be coming through here full-time with any other little gas sources. But this conduit, this major conduit, is being built to bring that glut of high radon gas from Pennsylvania that has the result, when radon breaks down in transmission, of creating the daughters, the decay products from radon, of polonium-210, lead-210. That's what I was going to get into when I send you the backup of pigging stations. That radioactive, those two elements, are left in the black powder scaling the inside of the pipe that's created the black powder from corrosion. And that's what they have to clean with pigging stations. If any of that gets into the air that we breathe, it's a cancer causer. They're very dangerous, and we're lucky we don't have one right here. It's just a little east in Danbury and one in Yorktown. And Spectra's other line, Maritimes and Northeast, into which Algonquin connects in Massachusetts, is being reversed from the flow coming down, importing foreign gas, to going north, so that this gas can sure provide New England with a little contracts here and there, but go right up to New Brunswick's Canaport LNG terminal, and on to the big one being built in Nova Scotia called Goldboro for world export, so that the gas industry finally gets their big profit. Another issue that I was upset to hear is this dismissal of Access Northeast, preceded by Atlantic Bridge, preceded by AIM. They are all expansions on Algonquin Pipeline and Maritimes and Northeast to handle this enormous conduit that will result in exporting most of this glut of Pennsylvania gas. And that this gentleman brought up continuous monitoring. That is a very big issue that is being denied. They say, oh, they monitor it, but nothing's available to the public. And there are great spikes in some of these emissions at night. It's very important to have continuous air monitoring available to the public. CAC, Clean Air Council, has made specific recommendations that is in my handout and that I'll send you their backup document on, for fence line monitoring for hazardous air pollutants and continuous emissions monitoring for regulated air pollutants, limits to blow down and purge emissions based on EPA natural gas STAR. There's so much that is being denied our protection, and we want to do our best to educate you the way we've been educated about the facts that you will not be hearing from Spectra. to protect our health and safety.
Well, that's the duty of the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency.
You know how poor the federal agencies are right
You know how
now.
poor we are?
This
There's
is
no way we
national
can-
energy
there's no way we can
policy.
monitor that.
To let this gas rip and to heck with us as sacrifice zones. So at least please get us monthly blowdown notification, please.
We'll try. One last question, ma'am, please. And then anything else, they'll possibly meet you out in the lobby to discuss further.
It's not really a question.
Would you just come to the mic, ma'am, state your name for the record? And then again, we're moving on after that, but they will stay out in the lobby to discuss it with you. Okay. Get it over with.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Terry Chiramella. I'm from the Brewster Heights Neighborhood Watch. It's not really a question I have. It's about the radon that you just mentioned. Back in 2013, Putnam County Health Department had launched a campaign about radon. Do you remember that? If you go onto their website, they talk about it. They were asking homeowners to purchase a radon kit for $10 so you can check the levels of radon in your home. Now, since Spectra is here, and now they're going to do this major project, it's going to increase the amount of radon in this area.
Do we know that as a fact?
Yes, if you go online, you can go online and see in your neighborhood the level of radon in your area.
But it's caused by...
It's naturally occurring radon.
Yeah, I don't believe it's
It's
from...
from, not from, it's because our train, I'm not a scientist, but I did do the test, and it's naturally occurring in rocks, and we have a lot of rocks here, from what I understand. But
Well,
I
New
don't
York
think
State has a lot of rocks,
Right.
but
And it's a big
gas
problem in New
also
York State.
increases radon.
Thank you.
We can get, yeah.
I would like to address that, make sure I don't. Yeah, the question about radon in natural gas has been around since the 70s, and that's when testing had first begun on radon. Anything that comes out of the ground is subject to having radon. It is a natural occurring element. However, the testing that's been done at the burner tip in homes has, over the years, shown that it's not an appreciable addition to home radon levels. In fact, it may not even be detectable by commercially available radon detectors. And there was a concern of various fields having different radon levels. It's actually been tested at various levels or at various gas fields to determine if there's any difference in fracking or however the gas is extracted. And also at various points along pipeline systems to determine if there's high levels of radon or any of the decomposed material. And all of the tests have shown that everything is well below EPA and all other regulations. So it's a thing that keeps getting thrown out there, but there's been studies done that is not a significant contributor. And it is naturally occurring that it's in a lot of other elements in the home.
If anyone else has lingering questions, you would not mind answering them out in the lobby? If anyone has any further
Yes,
questions?
yeah, I'd be happy to.
So we're going to close this portion of it. I want to thank you for coming. One thing I know we pride ourselves here in Southeast is giving everyone an opportunity to speak, and some people had a lot of opportunity tonight. I learned a lot, but it's not within, I won't say my pay grade, but it's something that I don't do for a living, so I don't understand 100%, but I'll at least admit that. And again, we rely on our federal, state authorities to make sure what they provide and what they put into the air is, you know, satisfactory for us to live, and I can't be a judge of it because I don't know. So, thank you for coming this evening. If anyone has any further questions, out in the lobby, just don't hold them up forever. I'll get a bill for it probably. And again, thank you for coming. We're going to continue our meeting, and you're not making a lot of noise, and don't worry about walking in front of the camera. I don't look that good on camera to start. Okay. Special presentation is over. I move to the work session. All in favor? Aye. Seconded by someone, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The work session tonight is basically the employee handbook. There are a few changes that have taken place over the past maybe year or even 2 years, and we have to basically update our book. A few of them, unfortunately, did not have resolutions. They'll be on the agenda this evening for passage. So let me just tell you what the few work session items are. One is a sick-time bank policy. In other words, if an employee is sick, they can donate their policy and some of their time to another employee. It's not based on salary, it's based on time only. That was passed in both the union and Teamster contract, and I have to put it in so it affects management as well. Another one is management health insurance contributions. It's basically been in effect. We've basically had only hired one person since the policy has changed. It's the town pays 75%, the employees pay 25%. Everyone else was grandfathered in prior to that at 80% town, 20% employee. So we're going to be adding that because that was done a while back, but it was not done by resolution. And the one thing I want to discuss this evening is longevity raises for management. I am not a big believer in longevity raises. I believe when people do good jobs, they get compensated. However, CSEA and Teamsters have longevity. And unfortunately, our managers are not treated so much as equals because they get raises like, you know, the normal raise. It's a 1%, quarter percent, 0%. We've had a couple of those recently. So they're treated as anyone else. However, their CSEA counterparts have steps and grades, and I'm not looking for that. I'm just looking for 5, 10, 15, and 20 years of employment longevity, and it's matching somewhat to the contracts. So at the 5th year, if an employee has not received another raise, over and above a normal raise, okay? Now, a normal raise is done every year, whether it's like 1%, 2%, whatever the contract, Teamster and CSEA, the manager's contract, which is not existent, we're making it with our policy, would get $750. At the 10th year, they would get $1,250. The 15th year, $2,000, and the 20th year, $2,500. Now, what happens with CSEA contract, a person comes in at a level, X number of dollars, let's use $40,000. Well, when they come in at that level, for the first 8 years of the contract, and this is what I really don't agree with, but that's a union contract that I have to live with, it's 2.5% increase per year, just for that particular one, plus other raises. Management doesn't get that, and I'm not calling for that, because that's a bit much. But I am asking for $750, $1,250, $2,000, $2,500. Now, it's for anyone that's not a CSEA or a Teamster. So who does that affect? The town accountant, town assessor, town building inspector, town clerk's full-time deputy, not to exceed 2, full-time code enforcement officers, not to exceed 2. Right now, there's like 1 in each, but at one point in time, there was 2 of each, so I want to limit it if it happens. The town deputy superintendent of highways, if there is such a position, the town fire inspector, the town justices, full-time clerks, each town justice, elected officials, each have a secretary. And again, they're kind of left out of the mix. Like once they come in, they get a salary, and it never goes above a normal one, and they should be treated as an equal. Town planning and zoning secretary, town supervisor's personal secretary, not to exceed 1. There are some supervisors that have 2. Town special districts coordinator, and the town tax receiver. Again, it's a fairness issue. And if there's ever a vacancy in a position by resignation or change of elected official. In other words, if I leave office and the new supervisor chose not to take my secretary on and bring in a new person, the employee filling that position shall start at 10% less than the salary of the previous employee in that position. Our current town assessor, when she came in, received a lesser salary than her counterpart who had, possibly more experience. So what we have to do with this policy is look to pay people for their experience. And of course, when someone else new comes in, it's not quite the same. So I can talk to you offline. I'm going to put it forward next month. And we can discuss it now, but I spoke to most of you. I didn't have a chance to speak to you. But it's just a fairness issue. So I'm going to put it forward for the agenda for next time. And like I said, the other 2, the sick bank policy and the medical insurance had been done previously. We didn't do it by resolution, and I plan to do that this evening. Questions? Okay. I make a motion now to go into the regular meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, well, we just spoke about resolution, management health insurance contribution. Now therefore be resolved that effective immediately for any non-union worker hired after this date, the town shall pay 75% of the cost of health insurance premium, and the employee shall pay 25% of such health insurance premium for either a family or an individual plan. So move for discussion.
Second.
Is there discussion? All in favor?
Can I ask?
Oh,
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
This has nothing to do then, just to be clear, with elected officials. This is strictly.
No, this is everybody.
Except for union.
See, the CSEA and Teamsters currently have it in their contract. Our handbook is the contract for our management.
No, I understand that, but it says for any non-union worker hired after this date. So I'm
Yes,
just.
because this is for management.
Right.
We're non-union. We're elected officials, but we're non-union.
Right, but we're not hired. I don't have a problem
Okay,
with.
so you want hired and elected? You're
No,
fired.
that's.
We're hired by
actually-
the people.
So you want hired and elected?
I think that's appropriate.
What?
Hired and/or elected.
Okay, we'll do it.
I think people in the town aren't clear on our benefits for elected officials, and I think they should be. So I would prefer clarification on that.
Okay, so we hired or elected. I'll make the motion to make the change. Is the seconder, who seconded this?
I second.
You in favor of that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll now read, any non-union worker hired or elected after this date. Happy?
Much happier.
Got it.
Well, I'm not happier with part of it, but I'm happy.
What part aren't you happy with?
Well, no, we're not getting into the elected official thing. I'm very happy if we
Well,
can.
no, we're getting more from them. Should be happy. Oh, you're upset? No.
No,
Okay.
no.
It's what everyone else is paying, and it's better than a lot of other towns, okay?
Right.
And I think it's good. You want a roll call vote?
I don't, but
Okay.
if you would like one, that's.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, resolution for town employee parking on 1360 Route 22. I'm going to read a whereas clause, because what it is, in the daytime, this place is really busy. I mean, some of you have an opportunity to come by here at daytimes. I know when you come by here at court time, forget it, you can't even get out on Route 22, it's like forever. But basically what we're trying to do is clear up the parking spaces directly in front of the building here. This past winter, when we were collecting taxes, and just even recently, some of the people had a long walk to get there. They had to park on the side of the building, whatever. So I'm trying to basically have it so all the employees of the town park anywhere other than in front of the building. I tell you, when I had my business, every lease had a little map on it showing them that they could not park where customers park. And these are the people who will pay our salary, and then basically identifying an area that should be kept clear of it, whatever. So if you come to visit, not a problem, park in front, but this is going to stop, or at least suggest that they not park any employee in 1360 only. If a person from 1 Main Street comes up to come up here for a reason, they can park here because they're only going to be here for a few minutes. But the employees of the building are here from 9 a.m. to 4:30 every day. So we're just asking to park on the side. And just so the public knows what goes on here at 1360 Route 22, is a destination of many visitors daily to obtain permits for burning, hunting, fishing, parking, handicap and otherwise, dog and marriage licenses, conduct marriage ceremonies, obtain copies of birth and death certificates, seek official documents, pay water, sewer, county, tax and school tax bills, vote, attend court, pay tickets, inquire about STAR, tax, military, senior, and disability exemptions, as well as to discuss property assessments, discuss grievances, and is patronized daily by property owners, real estate brokers, appraisers, attorneys, engineers, surveyors, title companies, property owners, future buyers of property, various New York State governmental agencies, and law enforcement, just to name a few. So we're going to clear up the front and just keep it reserved for anyone patronizing. Yes?
If an employee is handicapped or temporarily has a permit, obviously they can park in the handicapped space, I would assume.
I would, in all honesty, if that would happen, in all honesty, we'd have to make a special arrangement for that person. I wouldn't park them there because there's many, Michelle can tell you how many handicapped spaces. That's, again, reserved. If a person's here all day, we'll take whatever modification. But I can see people now applying for a handicap sticker just so they can park in the front. So that ain't gonna happen. Not under me, sorry.
And what would happen if an employee violates this?
We'll deal with that when it comes to, and we will deal swiftly.
Okay.
We're doing this because, look,
I
it's
know, I
fairness.
agree, I know, but
And I'm telling you right now, I think everyone is on board with this without a problem. But if there is, we deal with it. Because then I'm not the boss, huh? Okay. Resolved that effective immediately, all blacktop spaces in front of Town Hall 1360 Route 22 that run parallel to State Route 22 are reserved for visitors only. I didn't say Southeast taxpayers, mind you.
I know, we
Visitors.
used to have the sign.
I know, and that's the first thing I took down because I hated it. But guess what? The people who work in this building are Southeast taxpayers, so they could have parked down there. So it's visitors only. During the normal business hours of 9 to 4:30, Monday through Friday, and during summer hours when applicable. And be further resolved that all employees of the town who work at 1360 Route 22 shall park in any other non-designated space at 1360 Route 22 during normal business hours between 9 and 4:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, and summer hours when applicable. I've talked to basically all the employees, and it's not a problem at the present time. So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Maybe we should
Where
have
do you
done
wanna
the,
park?
you know what? maybe-
No, I know, I just think it's a little extreme.
No,
That's fine.
you think it's extreme, but you're not here when this goes on.
Okay.
I see it every day. When I saw 2 senior citizens fall this year because they had to walk, I mean, really, if they have to
No,
walk
I
that
agree.
whole length, there's no need.
I think we
If you're
needed a roll
If you're
call
working
vote.
here, if you're working here for 7.5 hours in a day, you go away for lunch, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal for the people to try to patronize, because they want to come in.
And all the employees will be notified of this thing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And all employees are in compliance.
It doesn't run counter to any union contract? No, I'm just
It
kidding.
might be. I'm quite sure they'll start grieving.
I came in today and it was completely clear. I was
Yes.
like, are we closed?
No. But I just want to put on record, that's the way it's going to stay. Okay? Okay. Next is performance bond for Bravcorp LLC, 65 Fields Lane. Now therefore be resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Bravcorp LLC, site improvements, $1,032,000. And erosion and sediment control, $42,000. And be further resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board secretary and building inspector forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Fourth one, resolution, performance bond, Brewster Corporate Park, 1920 Old Route 22. Resolved that the bond amount shall be established for the project set forth below. Project name, Brewster Corporate Park, site improvements, $1,760,000. Erosion and sediment control, $60,000. And be further resolved that the certified copy of this resolution shall be transmitted by the town clerk to the planning board secretary and building inspector forthwith. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to set a public hearing for Brewster Ford for April 7, 2016.
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Now, I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now, the purpose of waiving the rules, it wasn't on the agenda. Wells Park, as you are all aware, we have have a lease to the village for about 30 years. Numerous years ago, according to Mr. Gress, probably, he told me he's gone through like 5 supervisors and somehow this never got done, okay? He came to me and why wasn't this done decades ago? But anyway, what it is, at some point in time, the town overextended the boundary line of their property and put a building on Mr. Gress's property. And he has been kind enough, and thank you, Jack, he has paid for all the surveying we did wrong. he's doing more than right, and I can't thank him enough for being as kind as he is to, basically give us this property. He's basically changing the lot line, okay? So that the buildings that we have sitting on this property for the past, 15 years will now be ours in total. And the village will have the benefit of that. So, now therefore on the motion, can we put this forward this evening? All in favor?
Aye. Second.
Was there no second?
No.
I'll second.
Okay. Okay. Now therefore be resolved that the town of South hereby accepts the donation of the portions of Gress property, lying and being part of tax map 67.35-1-39, as set forth in the lot line adjustment application dated January 27, 2016, pending before the village planning board, and be further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute and deliver any and all documentation necessary and proper to effect the lot line adjustment between tax map 67.35-1-39 Gress and tax map number 67.27-1-2 Southeast to resolve the encroachment of the town-owned buildings and structures on the Gress property in such form and under such terms may be approved by the town attorney. So move for discussion.
I'll second.
And again, brief discussion. I do have to thank Mr. Gress for allowing this to take place, all at his expense, and I wish we could have gotten it done before March 1st for you, Jack, but we didn't quite make it. But next year, it'll be right. All in favor?
Aye.
Public comment.
John Lord, Town Southeast. I had a few questions. Wanted to know if there was anything new with Crossroads.
No, at this point in time, it's still a matter of litigation.
It's in litigation?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything that has to be done within a certain defined period of time in order for them to,
Everything is on hold because of litigation.
and any timeline stays on
Yes.
hold as well? Okay. With Barrett Hill, is there a lead agency been decided yet?
Yes.
Who's the lead agency?
Has it?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yes.
The town board.
Town Board is the lead agency? Okay.
That was approved by the acting DEC commission.
DEC Commission? Okay. And
I thought that was.
was the county's decision that a supermajority was going to be needed, was that defined, or is that?
The application has not, it's not, they have to come back in front of the town board yet.
Okay, but
Their application is not in front of us at the present time.
okay, and
If they come back and we deal with whatever comes in front of us.
okay, but the county's ruling that a supermajority was going to be necessary in order to get a zoning change, is that still correct?
As far as I know, nothing's changed.
We haven't heard differently.
Okay.
so.
You want to comment?
Well, I don't know. No, nothing's changed yet, but there is some misunderstanding, or the county saying they didn't get all the information, and I don't know where it stands from that. So.
Okay, yeah, I was at a planning board meeting, and I heard I guess Tom LaPerche was talking when Willis Stevens was discussing the phone call that I think you were on with the DEC.
That's
And,
okay.
But it sounded like there were some things that
Well,
weren't
that-
included.
Right, that was a conference call
Right.
about the lead agency status. They wanted some more clarifications about that was back in December, about who should be the lead agency.
Okay, and at the end of that meeting, there was also some discussion about a possible investigation by the FBI. That was in the minutes of the planning board as well, but there was more said during the planning board meeting. I just wondered, is there some investigation by the
Not at the
FBI?
present time, there is
Okay,
not.
and what was
No,
that related to?
That it could be a possible litigation matter, so we will not be discussing it.
Okay, thanks, but at some point, will the town
You have no idea?
know
You have no
anything
idea
about
about
it?
litigation until it's ready to happen.
Thank you, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Town board?
The only thing I would say is this weekend is the St. Patrick's Day Parade for anyone who is interested in going. It's held over in one of our sister towns over in Carmel, Mayapack. It's a nice event, so if you'd like to go out for an afternoon, see some or many people marching, it's nice. I just encourage you to go. I'll be there.
Sunday at 2.
Sunday at 2 o'clock.
What time does the bus leave?
Actually, I parked in the Kmart lot, and they do have a bus that brings you to where it is. But it was a good question. Good question.
Anyone else?
There's someone in the audience.
Well, the public's had their opportunity. Bring it down.
Yeah.
My question is about the future of Route 6 going towards Danbury, Connecticut.
They're discussing that tonight at, I believe, the county.
State of the county
State of the
address.
county. They discussed that in the county when I was there for 19 years. Went nowhere. It may go somewhere now, but I'm telling you now, it's not going to be the day after tomorrow.
Well, I know
Are you
they're
talking
trying.
about a sewer
right.
line?
I know they're trying to go around by putting the sewer up there, but you know, it's wetlands and it's protected. It's a
It's a,
protected
ma'am,
area.
that's so far.
What are we, I'm sorry, what are you?
She's asking about the pipeline that's being
Oh,
proposed,
that's-
which we only know what we've read in the paper about it. But again, we talked about it at the county level probably 15 years ago. It may be more, it's maybe closer now than it was then, but there's a lot of work that has to be done, and I don't see that we'll see it, I would almost say, during my term here. It takes that long to get done.
Well, no, I also, I don't know, but it hasn't been, the town board hasn't been notified
No,
about
we-
any of this.
No.
So this would be news, even though we have an inkling of what's going on, this would be news to us.
We have as much knowledge as you
You
on
do.
the subject matter. Our county legislator has not, either of our two legislators have not come to us to tell us what the proposal is. I honestly don't know if they know what the proposal is. It's being announced tonight as part of the county executive's state of the county. And then after that, questions start getting answered, but it's going to take quite some time for it to get
If
done.
it happens.
Right,
So.
right, yeah, we weren't.
And they also were going to discuss recreational opportunities to share with Danbury, but that we've heard about in the past.
Which might be the bike path that
Yes.
stops right now at the Connecticut line. I mean,
Yeah.
it stops dead. You ride there, as soon as you get to the border, it stops, and maybe a continuation. But ours was done through grants from the federal government. They're since dried up. So whatever it is, at this point in time, we have no idea.
Nothing that we're gonna have to, the town's gonna have to be.
Well, probably
Well,
at
Yes,
some
but
point.
at some point, but at this point, we have not been let in on any secrets, so we don't know.
And I don't think the legislature was made aware of it either. I believe tonight will be the first shot across the
Unveiling.
bow, so to speak. But from what I've seen with government, it's going to take some time to get it done.
If it gets done.
The only thing with the recreation activities, I think it is the bike trail, and they're talking about extending it right to the Danbury Mall. So you can, in theory, ride your bike to the Danbury Mall. No, right, I don't know. So that's the only
Strictly New
thing.
York.
They gotta put a toll booth on the bike lane, you know?
We need a toll that goes through town.
Don't give me any ideas.
A toll that goes.
Okay, I wanted to just close on a quick note. The town's received, probably in the past year, probably 3 or 4 anonymous letters from the public. If you write a letter to the town and you want an answer, you got to put your name to it. Don't be a little chicken, okay? Put your name to it. I get really tired of reading some of the accusations made against some government officials. If you really think you know something, go tell the authorities. That's where the FBI comes in that you're asking, sir. If you got something, go to the authorities and tell them what you know. Don't send letters to me, don't send it to another town councilman or to whomever saying things. Tell it to us, sign your name. I can tell you right now, any anonymous letter received by this town board is reviewed and investigated by me personally. Because I'm not one of those believers, if they don't sign their name and has no justification. At the county level, we did it, and I'm doing it here. If you got a comment, but who do I respond to? One of the councilmen gets a letter saying, I didn't do my job. I most certainly did. But who do I tell that I did it? It's anonymous. And that person gets another letter that's anonymous. Again, if you got something to say, put it in writing. Don't say concerned citizen. Our concerned citizens are anonymous. Tell us who you are so we can get back to you with the real facts. Don't take an event that happened and blow it out of proportion and make it look like it's something that it's not, okay? So if you saw me eating at Red Rooster, I'll use that as an example because I don't go there much, I paid for my dinner. And this is not real, I'm just using an example. Jesus.
You only go to the dollar menu anyway.
Yeah, I
for
go to the
McDonald's,
dollar menu.
So that would be
McDonald's.
completely
So
untrue.
that's a perfect example.
That would
We
never
know that's
happen.
not true, okay, because I'm cheap, okay? And the dollar menu is going too, it's
I
even
know,
worse.
it's more.
But anyway, now in all seriousness, if you got something to say, have the guts to stand up, put your name on the bottom line, and tell us what it is. I'd use a word, but there might be some kids out there listening to us tonight.
I doubt they're watching. Yes.
I'm not happy with the accusations made, and I'm telling you right now, for that person that sent the letter now 3 times, 1 to me, 2 to Ms. Eckhart, we've researched your answers. So if you got enough nerve, come into this town hall and we give you the answers. And if you want to march to the Sheriff's Department, the FBI, or wherever you want to go, we got your answers. And everything that you said and stated has some truth to it. Yeah, I might have gone to the Red Rooster, but I didn't. I paid for my food, but you got to prove I didn't. And that's not real. I'm just using it as an example. I can hear tomorrow, hey, goes to the Red Rooster, didn't pay for his food. I pay for everything I've ever done. So if you got something to say, put your name to it. If not, I'm almost willing at this point in time to do a DNA test to see who licked the damn envelope and start
Don't
testing
give it
it.
away.
Yeah.
Don't give it away.
So anyway, we're tired of
And-
it. So if you got something to say it.
Tony, if I can add one thing is, and I'm sure this happens to all the councilmen and women, we do get emails from people and they don't want it, they don't want people to know the questions they're asking. You know, they're more comfortable, say, with you or Bob and those names are, I try to get answers back to those people who inquire because I can get back to them because they've given me their names. So when people ask to be confidential, I think this board really respects that, but it's really frustrating because I spent a couple of hours answering these questions to do due diligence, and then I have no one to get back to. So people can know that they can get to us and without having their name splashed all over and having it be confidential. So I would really appreciate it. I would really appreciate it if people would let us get back to them.
And I don't agree with my colleague about being respectful. If you got something to say it.
You sound like Trump.
I'm running for president. No. I don't have the hair. I don't have the hair for it. Sorry.
I think the other piece, though, is if someone is fearful of recrimination, I think really what Lynn is saying is, please don't be fearful. You know, this is a matter that, I'll, take a little different road than my colleague Supervisor Red Rooster, and just simply say that under the circumstances, we're in a position where, of course, please come to us. But if we're not, we will protect you against recriminations as much as we humanly can, but, please just let us know who you are.
And of course, if there's any truth to what they're saying, there's no recrimination anyway, because they got real facts. But right now, they're spreading lies like you won't believe. They take the fact that the sun was out today, but we all went to the beach, but we were all here. So they're taking the truth that the sun was out, but we all went to the beach. I'm just using an example. It's kind of, I'm being...
You went to the beach and went to Red Rooster for the free meal.
So anyway, you get the point of it.
All the way over there, they don't see anybody in the front, so they think nobody's here.
Well, that's right. Now that's the problem. Now that's right. They're
Great.
going to say nobody's at work. There's
And
no
that's why
cars
we're
in the
going to put
front.
the
and we got
sand for the
video
beach.
Okay, so anyway, if you got something to say, put it in writing, don't say concerned citizen, give us your name. If you want to keep it confidential, you tell someone, we'll check the facts out and we'll get back to you. Because right now, that same person or persons, there's more than one, because we've gotten at least 3 or 4 letters in the past year, we're not doing anything. Baloney. It was done the same day, basically. It took me 2 months to track down one of the things, but we tracked it down, we got your answers. Come forward and tell us what it is. Anyway, with that,
I think
Who
that's
wants to make a
more than
motion?
enough.
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
Lynn?
Oh, you want me? Okay, I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're going to see you.